I can clearly see an AI image. It's going to cheapen your brand equity if you're using that.
Brand is the essence of you.
Welcome to The Marketing Game. I'm Gillian Williams, and I'm here today with Tina Marshall, who is one of the departments you manage for Akrivia Health is marketing.
Yes.
And Akrivia Health is a spin out from the University of Oxford. And
So the Akrivia Health journey goes back quite a long way, but also a short way. So we started off as UK CRIS. Our focus is real world data. And then in 2019, we spun out as Akrivia Health. So what we do is we bring in data from electronic health systems, and then the anonymized data we use for research purposes, and that's specifically for mental health and dementia.
You're also the founder of Creating Sense and Oxfordshire Soup, and you were the UK manager for Viziba Care, is that right?
Yeah, so that's a lot of a convoluted history, kind of like condensed. So I've worked in health tech for a really long time. When I had my first son, I wanted to be home for bath time, but it wasn't possible for the level of position that I had. So rather than work crazy hours and travel all the time and miss his early years, I actually decided to start a business myself, which was Creating Sense. Mm-hmm. So then I was probably more on your side of the fence when I was a freelancer, working for lots of different businesses. I became a lecturer which I really enjoyed as well.
Where was that?
For Abingdon and Whitney College. I became a lecturer for their apprentices.
And what were you teaching?
Business.
Okay.
Yeah, business, marketing, and sometimes they would farm me out and I would do some teaching at Oxford Brookes University for a group there. So it was really good. And then one of my old contacts came and asked me if I would work on one of their projects, which then happened to be Viziba Care. And then they asked me if I would be the country manager for their organisation launching their product into the UK, because they were a Swedish company.
So this isn't just a podcast. This is a game. It's called The Marketing Game.
Yeah.
And the game we're going to play is Connect 4.
Love Connect 4.
I'm actually not that good. And if I beat you...
So if I lose, that's quite bad then if you're not very good.
Well, yeah, I guess so. So we're going to play the game. And if I win, I'm going to ask you what your greatest marketing disaster was.
Okay.
If you beat me, you get to ask me a question and I just have to answer honestly.
Okay, all right.
I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to take my go. You're going to give your answer.
Yeah.
Then you take your go.
Okay.
And then we'll carry on and see who wins.
All right, okay.
You've got a lot of experience in marketing strategy and setting up supportive organisations.
Yeah.
What's the greatest marketing hurdle you've had to overcome?
A voice of the customer, and not in the way that you might think. So I started off working for a global organisation. At the time, it was an $8 billion organisation. I think now it's $15 billion. They're doing really well. And one of the things that was great that is they allowed me to develop and cut my teeth. And everything that was drilled into you there is voice of the customer, every single way. They gave me a great foundation in almost every aspect of marketing. And then when I went from kind of like big organizations to small organizations, the hurdle, I think, was trying to translate that. And sometimes it can be challenging where you have people, and I found this when I was freelancing, who are incredibly passionate about their product, quite rightly, as they should be. But their passion doesn't always equate to the customer's thoughts, views, and what the customer wants and what the customer will react to and respond to. And so I would probably say that's one of the biggest hurdles, is making sure that you can transfer that over. And I remember with one of the places where I worked, it was one of my early health tech jobs, and their branding and their comms, everything that they were doing was very technically focused, but their customer wasn't technically minded, even though they were selling a technical product.
Right.
So I came in with some new ideas of some new comms material that could have, that was emotive. And I remember getting pushback on it, but they trusted me, and we took both sets to a meeting with customers, asked the customers what they liked and what they responded to. And they chose the emotive piece because, again, voice of the customer. So for me, I've always had voice of the customer really drilled in. And I think it's really important for any organisation to recognise that the customer's voice is so important. You must not let it cloud your own judgment.
Often people get blinkered by the things that are important to them within an organization
Yeah.
and the development of the product and their business goals. And then that then seeps into the marketing messaging, which is not going to work because, frankly, the customer doesn't care. All they want you to do is solve their problems.
Yeah. Customer cares about the outcome.
As I said in the last question, you've set up supportive organizations. What is it that attracted you to being a part of those supportive roles?
Goodness me, so many things. There we go. For me, I really enjoy doing a variety of things. And even when I worked at BD, the large global organization, these big companies, and everybody always differentiates between big companies and small companies. But at the end of the day, you still have the same work to do. It's just you have different resource.
Right.
In a big company, you have more resource, of course you do. But what I found in the large organisations is actually you work almost as though you're a bit of an SME in those organisations. And so I started my career. Lots of marketers start doing tactical work and doing communications, brochures and things like that. And then they move into strategic development. And I did it the other way around. I started off doing strategic development and then went and got some tactical knowledge and then moved into global work. So I'm used to kind of having my fingers in a lot of pies, if you would. I'm used to having that spread. And so that's one of the things that I really do like when I'm working with organisations. And also because marketing is so much more than comms. Mm-hmm. And I think that's quite undervalued, as it were. I remember when I first went to a networking event for the very first time when I was working for myself. And they said, "Oh, what do you do?" And I said, "I work in marketing." To me, it was like standard. I work in marketing. And they were like, "Oh, so you do social media?"
Right. Yeah.
Social media is a great part of marketing, but it's a small part of marketing. Yeah. And, it's an outcome of when you've developed when you've done your market research, developed your value proposition, everything there helps you get to the stage where actually your social media and your messaging should be easy. So what I always say to organizations as well is like, spend as much time as you can on the unsexy parts of the work, the market research, voice of the customer, competitors, all of the analysis, because then your messaging and your value proposition actually does flow quite easily. Mm-hmm. But again, I think that's where I've enjoyed working for lots of different organizations because I've been able to really do that and take them on that journey.
Now working at Akrivia Health, when you work in medical research, it's a highly regulated industry. Mm-hmm. How does that affect your work? Well,
so there are certain things that we can and that we can't do. So everything that we do, I would say, as most organisations, we have definitely a focus on best practice and how we do that. Working in a highly regulated industry means that there are certain platforms that we wouldn't be able to use, and that could all be dependent on where the data is stored and how the data is processed. So for us, if there's any kind of like platform or solution that I want to use, then it needs to go through our IG process, where it's really...
What's an IG process?
Information governance, sorry. So it's really given a really rigorous kind of like look through, because there have been programs that I've used before, and I won't go into which ones because I think it wouldn't be fair. But I will say there are programs I've used before in other places where it hasn't mattered so much, but here it really, really does.
Right.
And so quite often I'll push forward a program to use, and it, the data could be stored in the US, for example, whereas for us, we need the data to be within the EU. And so it's things like that I might not be able to use a particular SaaS platform. And even now more so, there are so many different things within AI that can be used for sales and marketing. But we really need to be mindful of that because there is nothing more important to this organization than protecting its data.
Sure.
And, it's incredibly important to everything that we do. So, even if you want to be a little bit cavalier and go and try a different platform, it would just be incredibly dangerous and stupid to do so. So
this is why, because I produce your podcast for Akrivia Health, Precision Neuroscience Reimagined.
Yeah.
And when we were setting up, we were going to use a particular platform. And I don't want to say what platform it is because I don't want to sort of cast shade on that. But I think, and it had a lot of features that were attractive, but I remember there was a note that we couldn't use that one, and we had to switch to another. And I wasn't really sure why. I went along with it, of course. And so that's why it's the protecting the data.
It's protecting, and it's where the data is processed. So we have to be really mindful of where the data is processed. So, and we could have somewhere where it could even just be that that everything is fine with a particular organisation that I would want to work with, but they just haven't spent enough time detailing their information governance policy, their privacy policy, detailing all of those things. So then we just don't know. And because data is, as I say, data is so important for us it's really important that we do know those things. We must know those things. So while I can see some really cool, sexy, things coming out of the US, I can't use them because they could be built for the US market. They haven't transferred them yet to the UK, to the EU, and then definitely not to the UK, in which case then we just can't use them.
And is this something that you feel that other marketers should be aware of as well, even if they're not working in this industry?
Absolutely. I think as marketers, it's really important for us to be really protectful of data, because we do process data. When we've done our market research, and and when we've moved through, and then we're starting to do our comms, we're using personal data to contact people. Even when you're in sales and you want to use a different platform to contact people, when you want to just use LinkedIn to contact people, you should be aware of how that data is being processed. Different plugins for LinkedIn, great, fine, but how is that data being processed? So it definitely is important. Most marketers that I know, to be honest, when they've been through their SIM training, of course, there's a huge element of data protection that's baked in there. But it's also one of those things that's ever changing and ever evolving, particularly as new technology comes on board. So we need to be on top of our game
and refreshing our understanding
our knowledge.
You work in tech. Tell me, what emerging digital trends should we be looking out for
in the marketing field or in healthcare?
In marketing.
In marketing. So again, have a look at AI to see what AI can do. I would say do not let AI write your content for you. I do think that's a little bit lazy. So I think that we need to be aware of that. Use it for hints and tips and tricks and things like that. But I actually really firmly believe in the foundation of marketing. So all of the other tools that are coming in to support us, there are tools where you can, it will help you develop your ideal customer persona based on the profile that they have on LinkedIn or across social media. I think that could be great and that could be really interesting. But again, how is that data being processed? So I think we need to be mindful of that. And of course, there are lots of tools now that can generate really good content and videos that you could use. But again, I say it like those are things that you can use, but your customers will understand that it's an AI voice there.
Yeah.
And one of the suppliers that I use, and I'll give them a shout out here now, the Informatic, sorry, I've got your name wrong, the Infographic Group. They're amazing. They've been developing some animations for me that are literally out of this world. Cost effective. Are there things that could be done via AI? Possibly, but will it have the true customization that I want to have, that I think will actually speak to our audience? I'm not so sure. So I'm still kind of treading slowly. I'm not sure if that's the right way to go, but I'm just keeping an eye, being mindful, exploring, before I go out there with a bang and change everything that I do.
I agree. I think that AI in terms of marketing solutions is in its infancy, and I can clearly see an AI image, and I feel like it's going to cheapen your brand equity if you're using that, because anybody can go and generate an image with Midway, for example. And I think that speaks about the effort that you're putting into it and your audience. And you're absolutely right. You said earlier about not using AI to write your content. It's always reflexive. It's not coming from your brand voice.
No.
And I think that it churns out a very generic sounding content.
It's lazy marketing.
Yeah, I don't think that an AI can produce a targeted, effective solution for anybody.
Not as yet.
No.
but we can take bits and we can learn from them and we can use them to help us evolve. But, I think as long as we still maintain control and authenticity, I think that's what's really important in marketing.
Absolutely. And do you think AI is a threat?
For marketing or the world in general?
Oh.
Okay, I'm going to put one in there. You can go with the next one.
Yeah, so, I think in marketing, because AI is so broad that, it's hard to answer that question. But in terms of marketing roles, I think a lot of people are worried about getting replaced by automation. Do you think that's a real threat?
Oh, dear. Yes and no. For me, that goes down to authenticity. As we've just been talking about, yes, you could, a small business that doesn't have any resource, that doesn't have a marketing team, could go online, could go to ChatGPT, type in a few commands, and then have a piece of content written for it. Okay, easily you could do that, and it wouldn't cost anything at all. Would it have the authenticity to make a difference and make an impact to your customers? Probably not. And this is where I can go back to, let's think about at the beginning when I'm moving to small tech companies and they're questioning the emotive content versus the very technical content, and the emotive content was there. That came down to my experience and history of working and having literally voice of the customer just drummed into me. So I don't know. Can an AI do that? Yes. Can it do it really well? Possibly not.
Not long ago, I put a post on LinkedIn and it got quite a bit of traction. And one of the things I said in that was, if your role can be easily automated, then all you need to do is upskill. For example, if you're a copywriter, and I have employed copywriters in the past, freelancers, who would basically churn out SEO optimized content for a website, and that's all they did. Now, that role is under threat if the content's just purely for the purpose of SEO. But then, to combat the threat, simply upskill.
So I agree and disagree with that. So I agree that everybody should upskill, but I think sometimes it's just not that easy. And I think that comes down to a personality profile. You're very driven, I'm very driven. So we would sit here and go, yes, just upskill. But for somebody that's potentially been in a job for 25 years and it's the same job and they love that job, upskilling, they might not have a clue of where to go, what to do, how to do things. And, then it can be a real challenge. And plus, can an AI have that level of experience, of somebody that's been in a position for a really long time that potentially is comfortable? Because I think at the end of the day also, when we're looking at different personalities in the workplace for what we deliver, you can have some people that are really driven and, does they want to progress? I'm so ambitious. And you can have some people that are just like, I just want to go to work. I want to do a really good job. I'm not that fussed about progressing because I just really care about the environment around me. And for those people, should they have to worry about upskilling all the time? And as I say, if they've been in the job for 25 years, that person will definitely have some knowledge there that they probably don't even realize themselves, but an AI definitely wouldn't have.
Yeah, it's a fair point. How important is brand?
Oh my goodness, so important. I think it's brand is incredibly important and shouldn't be underestimated, and I think quite often brand can be underestimated. And that's because, of course, the subliminal messaging that we get every single day when we go into the streets, that is branding. Every time we buy something, that's due to branding. Branding it's such a huge component. So for me, I think it can be underestimated, but it's incredibly important. I mean, brand is the essence of you.
Okay, last question, and I think we'll have to just keep playing because you've been very kind and let me off my obvious mistake. I'm really genuinely not very good at this game. I don't know why I chose this one for the podcast, but to somebody getting into marketing now, what would you suggest?
Learn as much as you can. Soak up as much knowledge as you can. Definitely go and do your diploma, Chartered Institute of Marketing. I would highly, highly recommend it, and I think it gives a great foundation. I think there's a certificate version that you would be able to do before the diploma. For me, working in a really big organisation that valued training and people was genuinely, it was key, because it gave me the foundation of every single aspect involved in marketing, from launching a product, determining product market fit, through to developing, a comm strategy for Europe for one of our disruptor products. So I think it's really important to get a really true foundation, because again, marketing has got so many facets to it that you could have somebody that says that they like marketing, but then they don't know what to do within it, because it's quite broad. And marketing, really, when done properly, is the foundation of any business.
Do you ever regret going into marketing?
No.
Sorry about that.
Oh, okay. Oh, you did that so I could win.
It looks like, yet again, I've been beaten. I do need to get better at this game.
You did it so I could win.
You get to ask me a question now. What would you like to know that I could say?
What would your advice be to people started in marketing? You have a varied background. I know you're doing the podcast now. You've been a brand manager. You're a marketer. It kind of like it's in your blood.
Yeah.
What advice would you give?
I think some people maybe get into marketing because they think it's a certain type of lifestyle. And I think the reality of it can be different to the perception.
Or do they really shouldn't think it's a certain type of lifestyle?
And I think that if you're going to get into marketing, then you need to be very comfortable with data analysis. And I think a lot of people don't want to do that. And interestingly enough, on the podcast we just recorded, Gloria was talking about intuition and how you should avoid that. And I think that can creep into marketing a lot. And rather than actually looking at research and data analysis, people can go with
voice of the customer.
This is it,
though, isn't it?
Yeah, and then they go with intuition because they feel like it's the right thing. And I think approaching marketing from you have to have the emotional component, but from the customer's perspective.
Yeah.
I think as soon as you start introducing your own emotional bias, that's a mistake.
Yeah.
And despite the fact that you may love it,
absolutely,
if it's not aligned with what the customer wants, it's not going to work.
No,
so that's
completely
what
agree.
I would say. Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Tina. This has been good fun. And,
thank you.
Great interview. And thank you for watching to the end of the marketing game. Please share and comment. Let us know what you liked about this. If you want to get in touch with Tina, drop us a comment as well. But please share, like, all that stuff. You know what to do. And I'll be dropping the next episode very soon. Thank you. Goodbye.